subscribe to this. The reason why I say this is, even prior to the insertion of 90 subsection 2, we will remember that there was a decision of the Andhra Pradesh High Court in Visakhapatnam Port Trust case. In fact, 90 subsection 2 came into the statute book only to clarify what Visakhapatnam Port Trust, what the AP High Court had already decided in Visakhapatnam Port Trust case. And in Visakhapatnam Port Trust, the AP High Court said that once the DTA is entered into and once the act is silent, the DTA will override the Income Tax Act. So even without 90 subsection 2, I would say that there is a treaty override. The double taxation agreement overrides the act unless the act had provided to the contrary. So it was not 90 subsection 2 that created the treaty override. The treaty override was always there. 90 subsection 2 clarified the treaty override. If 90 subsection 2 clarified the treaty override, then 206AA, even if it overrides subsection 2 of section 90, does not override the Visakhapatnam Port Trust principle. And therefore, we could still go on to say that the requirement to deduct tax under the DTA rates would remain as such, even if the other party, that is a payee, particularly if he is a non-resident, does not provide me with the PAN number. I will probably, from here, go back into domestic taxation for some time. I will start with just a few aspects relating to each of the sections. Some of these may not be fully acceptable to the audience here. But then these are my personal views, and these are the areas where difficulties could arise, and probably we need to be aware of the difficulties that could arise. In fact, whenever we talk of salaries, particularly in a corporate, one of the first questions that comes up and one of the biggest difficulties that employers face in relation to tax deduction at source in salaries is a fundamental question. My employee is getting an income from some other employer. Prior to his joining me as an employee, he was getting income from some other employer. Or he is getting some other income. I am aware of that income. I am aware of what salary he do from his former employer. Am I required to deduct tax at source even on that income? Though he has not told me, I know. Because when he joined me in employment, he has already told me what was his last drawn salary. I probably am already aware, should I do it? Or should I force my employee to give me the details? Read the language, it's very simple. The employee may furnish particulars in the prescribed form with a prescribed declaration, and the employer shall take the same into account. So the employee may furnish particulars. It is not just that he may furnish, he is required to furnish it in the prescribed form with a prescribed declaration. So if he may, if he chooses to, you shall, as an employer, take the same into account. What if he does not? You cannot force him to, because the law clearly uses the words may and shall interchangeably. When it talks of the employee's requirement, it says the employee may. But when it talks of the employer's requirement, it says the employer shall then. And therefore, it would not be possible for an employer to force an employee, and even if the employer is otherwise aware, he is under no obligation to deduct tax at source on the employee's other incomes unless the employee gives the particulars in the prescribed form. In fact, I was very interested to know one new controversy which has been raised by the department. Because this is not exactly in relation to TDS, but also affects TDS, but it is one TDS officer who has raised the issue. See, we are all aware, interest on capital borrowed on housing loan for housing is allowed as a deduction in that year. Of course, if it is self-occupied, subject to limits, if it is let out without a limit, and they also say that pre-construction period interest is to be allowed in 5 equal annual installments. Now, what is pre-construction period interest? They say pre-construction period interest would mean the period prior to the previous year in which the property has been acquired or constructed. I repeat, the previous year prior to the period prior to the previous year in which the property is acquired or constructed. That means if a property is acquired today, pre-construction period interest is the interest up to March 2010. This is how I have always understood. I had no difficulty. But then one very intelligent officer has come up with a new theory. The officer says, look, section 3, which defines the term previous year. It says if a source of income has come into existence in the previous year in relation to that source commences from the date on which that source comes into existence. In other words, if I buy a property today or I finish construction of a property today, the source comes into existence today. So what is the previous year? 28th of November 2010 to 31st March 2011. So he says the period up to the previous year prior to this is pre-construction period. That means the interest up to 27th November is pre-construction period, not up to 31st March 2010. A very new theory that I saw. But then if we look very carefully at the difference in the language between section 3 and section 24, section 3 says a source of income newly comes into existence, then the previous year shall be. I admit a source of income has newly come into existence today, therefore the previous year will commence from today. That is for section 3. Now go to 24. It says the period prior to the previous year in which the property has been acquired or constructed. There they are not referring to the previous year in which the source came into existence. The property was acquired. When was the property acquired? Which is the previous year in which the source came into existence? 28th November. Which was the previous year in which the property was acquired? 1st April 2010 to 31st March 2010. Therefore, pre-construction period interest can only mean interest up to 31st March 2010. I understand that there are officers who issued show cause notices asking assessees to explain as to why they are not liable for recovery of taxes under 2011 and 2011A on lower deduction of tax at source. I'll probably switch on to 194A. But before I go to 194A, to my mind there seems to be a very small drafting lacuna. It was probably unintended. It is probably unintended. We will recall that 194C and 194J have express provisions incorporated to say that if the expenditure is personal in nature, if the assessee is an individual or a HUF, there is no need for deduction of tax at source, even if they were subject to tax audit in the preceding year. Now we will recall that individuals and HUFs are subject to tax audit if they were subject to tax audit if the previous year. So in the current year, I have to see whether they were subject to tax audit last year. While 194C and 194J make an exclusion in respect of personal payments, there is no corresponding exclusion for 194A, 194H or 194I. In other words, let's take a simple situation where I am an individual carrying on a business. In the previous year, I was subject to tax audit. In the current year, my house rent, let us say, is 20,000 rupees per month, aggregating 2.4 lakh. This has got nothing to do with my business. Let's understand. Even then, I am under an obligation to deduct tax at source. In fact, I am just wondering how the department will monitor my remittance. The monitoring mechanism for remittance comes out of the fact that my tax auditor will comment on whether I have remitted the taxes that are deducted. But my individual payments are not subject to tax audit. So the tax auditor would also not comment. So I would probably deduct and not remit. I would leave the government dry, I would leave the receiver of rent dry and retain the money. That's one possibility from the point of view of the payer. But rightly or wrongly, there appears to be no exclusion. One of the most recent controversies has been in relation to personal loans. Now, in relation to personal loans taken otherwise than from a banker, I am using the word banker little carefully, because when I say a banker, I will even say otherwise than from a domestic banker. Right? The reason being that if the person